it is students and families first. We're prioritizing what's best for you all in the model and for us second. And so we want to talk about a couple of models. So first of all, I want to say a little bit about health and safety because I know how important that is, and this is our first guiding principle. So 4 things that you should know to be true for next school year. 1, face coverings, masks. The state is requiring for all students and for all faculty all day, we wear face coverings when we are in the building. There will be mask face covering breaks built into the day. We'll talk more about that later on this summer. And students will obviously remove their masks to eat their meals, but face coverings are required. Physical distancing. The state has said that we can set up our classroom spaces to have 3 feet of space up to 6 feet of space, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. They're promoting regular hand hygiene, so washing of hands, hand sanitizer, having hand hygiene be part of our entry protocols before meals, and then self-check of symptoms at home. So we're going to be asking you, as you would, sort of checking in with you, with your children, how are they feeling before they come to school? If you have any concern that they've been sick, that they've been exposed to someone with COVID, that you keep them home. We will not be taking students' temperatures at the door at entry. And the reason for that is that they think there's just a lot of false information and that it's not very accurate. So these 4 things, wearing masks, keeping our distance, focusing on hand hygiene, and self-checking of symptoms is how we want to work together to keep our community safe. Couple other high-level things for you to know about. The classroom layouts. All of the desks will be facing in the same direction. They'll be facing forward. They'll be in rows. So no more pairs, no more groups, physically distanced. Middle school students will stay in their oversized homerooms for the day, and teachers will come to them to limit movement. High school students will change classes just given the nature of the high school schedule, but we will group students together so that they are more in pods and not traveling through the whole building. And both of these initiatives support contact tracing in the building. Couple of other things for you to just know about. Entry and exit procedures are going to look different. We'll talk more about those later in the summer. Breakfast and lunch will be had in classrooms. Students will be sitting 6 feet apart. There'll be no use of lockers next year. Lockers are just frankly too close together for us to keep that physical distance component. We're adding an additional nursing space so that, you know, day-to-day nursing needs can be handled separate from anybody that we might be concerned has been exposed to COVID. And there are some classes that we're going to have to put on pause for the year. So we have a great automation and robotics program in the middle school and high school, but those are shared robotics kits. And we can't be sharing those kits among students anymore. That said, I am incredibly excited that we have added computer science and we've added young adult literature in the high school. We've added ethnic studies. So while we had to take some things out, we've also added some things in. And one of the folks on the phone is asking, how would you keep distance in an oversized classroom? So if you can imagine kind of coming to school and seeing a classroom at Boston Prep, if we just kept the classrooms exactly as they are, we can fit 12 to 14 desks if they are all spaced 6 feet apart. So by taking down a wall and having 2 connecting classrooms, we can fit 24 to 30 desks. And our homerooms are 25. So we can kind of have an elongated classroom, so to speak, and keep all of the students and the teachers 6 feet apart from each other. We'll also be using the cafeterias as classrooms, the gymnasium as classrooms, the library as a classroom, our faculty offices and planning areas as classrooms. So we're really, what the building was built and designed for is certainly not how we'll use it next year, but we're committed to using all of the space, but keeping folks physically distant to be as healthy as possible. So here is what we know. As I said, we know that those 4 things, wearing a mask, keeping distance, checking for symptoms at home, and focusing on hand hygiene, when done together, not any one alone, but when done together, we can be healthy. That said, we know that there's a lot we still don't know about COVID. We know that there's a lot of concern about the virus with families, with teachers, with students. And so we have a question for you. The guidance suggests that we could distance students at 3 feet or anywhere in the range between 3 feet and 6 feet. So I am wondering how folks feel about which range they would want. So if people wouldn't mind, I'm going to try to attempt a poll. So let's see how I do here. And if folks could share, what is your preference here? Hopefully you're seeing this poll. Do you prefer that students are 3 feet apart from each other, 6 feet, anywhere in between is fine, or do you prefer a different distance? This is something that we've debated a lot actually as a teaching team this summer. And so really curious to hear where families are thinking. And thank you to those who are taking the poll. Thank you to those who are adding in the chat box. We'll take just another 15 seconds here so more people can vote. Okay. Great. So right now, we've got a bunch of people voted here, and we are climbing towards about 60% of you would prefer 6 feet. So I'm going to leave the poll open for just a couple of minutes. That's definitely kind of the majority opinion in the chat box as well. So given that, while I keep the poll open, because I want to make sure we have time for questions, that gets us to option 1, right? So the Department of Ed said we need a plan for all students to learn in person safely in the distance requirements. If we go with 6 feet, which is what 60% of you want to do, we cannot physically have everybody back in the school. So that moves us into some hybrid options. And so tonight, that's really what we want to share with you, because that's what we've been thinking at school, that 6 feet made the most sense. And so given that, 3 hybrid options, okay? So I'm going to end this poll now, and I will start talking through these options. And then we'll take questions. Okay, 3 options. Option 1, we have A weeks and B weeks, and we alternate who's in the building based on middle school versus high school. So as you can see in the picture, let's imagine it's September 21st, and that's an A week. In the building is all of middle school. Learning remotely for the week is all of high school. Then we come to the next week, September 28th. It's a B week, and it flips. Middle school is now learning remotely, and high school is learning in the building. So that's option 1. In any of these options, I just want to note that we have a subpopulation of special education students in our partial inclusion program. And the likely thinking is that that group of 25 students would be in the building with us every week. Okay, and that applies to all of these options. Option 2, we continue to have A weeks and B weeks, but we don't alternate middle school and high school. In this model, we pick 3 grade levels that every A week and every B week, so every week they come to school. So 6th, 7th, and 9th are the examples we've shown here. And then on A weeks, I can add 2 more grades to that. So I add 8th and 10th to come to the building, and 11 and 12 learn remotely. And then on the B week, 6, 7, and 9 continues to come, but now 11 and 12 joins them, and 8 and 10 are learning remotely. So in these models here, we can have up to 5 grade levels of kids safely in the building. And so this option doesn't alternate every week. It has some kids coming every week, and we prioritized 6th and 7th, our youngest, and the 9th graders, and then options. Someone's asking if kids are going to get all this information through email or paper. Yes, right now we're still in decision making. So this is just draft. We haven't picked any of these. So once we've picked, we would clearly communicate. The third option is forget this notion of A and B weeks. Treat every single week the same. And in this case, again, we can still have 5 grade levels. So you can see 6th, 7th, and 9th every single day come to school, and 8 and 10 are in the building Monday, Thursday, Friday, and 11 and 12 learn remotely. But then on Tuesday and Wednesday, 11 and 12 are in the building, and 8 and 10 learn remotely. Now, in any of these models, you can change what 3 grades are always in the building. It doesn't have to be 6, 7, and 9. Maybe it's 9, 10, and 11. Maybe it's 6, 7, and 8. But we can always have 3 grades every day, and then we alternate the other 2. And you could decide it's not 2 days in the building and 3 days remote. Maybe it's 4 and 1. There's lots of different options here. Part of our thinking with option 3 is that it's easier for families with planning around childcare and work, right? If you don't have to think about, is it A week, is it B week, do I need care on A week or B week, but every week's the same, is that better? And so we're curious to know what you think. So on this next slide, you can see I put all 3 models together. And I'll put this here when we open up the discussion in just a minute. But the last thing I wanted to say before we open it up is that there is variation in all of these models. None of them are ideal, right? You can see that in the first model, every kid is in the building 50% of the time. But in the second models, some kids are in 100%, some kids are in 50, 60, 40. We can play around with how much in-building time kids have. So what might be a benefit? Well, having 6th and 7th graders in the building every week versus every other week might be great for childcare, right? It might really make planning for families around their work and their needs easier. Possible limitation, right, is that there are some kids who get more than others. So what we're interested in is what you like and what questions do you have for these models, right? Because we have to think not only about what's equitable for students, but what's equitable for families, what's equitable for teachers, and we need to be thinking about where do our learners need the most in-person time? And is it appropriate for a 12th grader, for example, to spend a little bit more time remote than it does a 6th grader, particularly as they prepare to transition to college? So there's a lot to weigh. And so with that, I would be curious to hear from some of you either questions, and keep putting them in the chat box, and or if anybody wants to share their thinking with families. And feel free to unmute yourself to do that.
Sharon, I just want to ask one question.
Yes.
When you say the self-check, meaning that you guys are not going to take temperatures of these kids when they come in the building, does that mean it's up to the middle school and high schoolers to self-check to tell you guys if they have a fever, if they are feeling some kind of way? Because I'm not comfortable with that.
Yep.
Because majority of kids don't know what it is, and the tolerance level for my child could be different for someone else's tolerance level. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we've been told that the Department of Ed is going to give us a checklist of questions that you can ask yourself at home as a parent and a child before you leave to school. And so that is supposed to help with self-check. So how do I feel? Have I been exposed to anyone with COVID? Do I have a temperature above X degrees? And it's the hope that families would make the decision going through that checklist each morning to either send or not send their student.
So that
when you show up, that you're feeling okay to be at school.
So that makes me nervous, because just because I have a temperature and just because I might be working remotely from home, that doesn't necessarily mean family B and family Z is doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So who's to say that that parent is taking that time to do that? And are we going, there's no way to assure me that that can happen, especially when I have a mother that's in my household that's over the age of 70, that we're taking precautions to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Who's to say, and I'm not saying anything about anyone else, but that you're leaving way too much responsibility up to a child. These are kids that you're saying, hey, you're going to do a self-check. Even the nail salons and the hair salons are doing temperature checks. So we're saying the schools where the majority of these kids are being grouped into one spot, they're not going to do temperature checks?
Yeah. So I will bring this back to the team. We had actually purchased temperature check stations for the entry to school, but what we were told by the Department of Ed is that the temperature check is not a good indicator of COVID, and that they're getting a lot of false negative reads from temperatures. And so implementing that step has actually not been what's been keeping people healthy when in a work or setting. They've said if you focus on masks, hand hygiene, distancing, and building this kind of conversation between parents and students at home, that those four things together are best. But if you all are saying that this is really important, and you want us to temperature check, like we will consider that, right? We're in this together with you.
I'm not saying what you guys should do, because I know there's certain goals and there's certain policies and there's certain standards in order for you guys to open up, just like everywhere else. A nail salon, my job, like right now for me, enabled to go to work 1 day a week. We have temperature checks. They're temperature checking us. Not only that, but we have stations where there's hand sanitizer. So therefore, but we're also not in the building all at one time. But I'm just leery on the fact, and I'm apprehensive of giving it up to a child to be responsible to say. So now I'm responsible before I leave for work at 6:30 in the morning to make sure my child, before she leaves to go to school, is okay, which that is my responsibility as a parent. But I don't know that.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, let's, we will take this and we'll come back to it in our next family town hall in a couple of weeks. I really appreciate the pushes. Other questions, things on people's mind. I wanted to note a couple of things that have been in the chat box. So one, someone asked, how does this work with the current no more than 10 people in a location guidance? We've been told from the state and from the governor's office that when schools open, we'll be in a different place as a state with where we are with the phased reopening. So that 10-person guidance will not apply. And that if we focus on the 6 feet of physical distancing, keeping kids in their homerooms, lunch in homerooms, and minimizing traffic overlap, that the 10 students will not apply. With regards to a question about lockers here in the chat, so students will all have their Chromebooks, and most materials, all materials will be electronic, even when students are in the school building, right? Because we don't want to be passing papers back and forth between students and having that kind of contact. So we're going again for a contactless system. So we're hoping that that actually means a much lighter load for what students are carrying around. Okay. I know that there are a lot of questions here, some questions here in the chat about transportation. I don't have anything that I can say to you right now about transportation. The MBTA has not released any guidance to us, nor has Boston Public Schools about yellow buses. So if it's okay with you, we'll talk about transportation in 3 weeks. My hope is that there'll be some more information, but I literally haven't gotten any guidance. And so I can't even tell you more about transportation, and I'm sorry about that at this time. Other comments, questions?
I have one. Hello.
Hi.
What if you don't feel comfortable sending your child to school? Is remote learning an option still?
Yes, absolutely. So we sent out today 2 surveys in our newsletter. One is exactly that. If you do not feel that you want to send your child back to school next year, given the pandemic, we're asking people to share that thing with, but we'd love to know that. So any model that we do will be in person and remote. So I should have said and been more explicit about this. So imagine I'm a 7th grader, and in the model we chose, at whatever day it is, the 7th grade is learning in the building. We will have it set up so that students can also be learning remotely. Okay, so you as a student could be attending class with Ms. Ferreira at the same time as the students who are in the building with Ms. Ferreira, for example, as a 7th grade example. Okay. Ms. West, I see that it says that you didn't get the newsletter. If you could privately chat Ms. Duran your email info, please, we can get that fixed.
Miss Sharon, just one more question.
Absolutely.
When you say as far as the plans, and you're saying, so you're gonna, I guess you guys are gonna come up with a plan as far as if it's plan A, plan B, plan C. And if we as a parent don't agree with that, we have the option to say, hey, we don't want to do plan A, B, or C. We want our child to learn remotely. Are they gonna get the same education and the same materials that a child that is physically in the school?
Yep. So imagine, okay. I don't yet know the exact time of classes, but I'll use my 7th grade example. Let's say I'm in the Lowell homeroom. Ms. Ferreira is my English teacher, and I have English at 9 a.m. on Tuesday. Can be doing that in the building with Ms. Ferreira, or some kids can be doing that same English class, accessing the same materials, seeing what's going on at home. So we want it to be seamless, and that is both for students whose families decide they don't want to come back, but also moments where, what if happens in the middle of the year that you've been exposed to COVID as a student and you have to stay for 2 weeks? We want it to be seamless, right? We also want it to be seamless in the sense that, let's say it's October 17th. We've been coming to school learning. We go home. Governor Baker gets on the television and he says, effective tomorrow, October 18th, it is 100% remote. No kid is going to school. We want to keep going on October 18th, learning remotely. We want no interruptions. Okay. There's some questions here about cleaning.
Hi, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead. Yep.
Hi, how are you today?
Good, thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So suppose there's a parent at home that has underlying issues, underlying health issues.
Yep.
and the child is in school and they come home and they've gotten the COVID. Like, I just don't, I'm not well with sending my child back to school right now, because I'm just nervous because I have health issues that I'm going through, and I'm just very nervous about it.
Yeah.
Was there really an option for me as far as sending my child back to school, doing online classes as well?
Yep. Yep. Every family has the choice to, regardless of model that we choose, say that they want students to stay home and remote learn for the year. And the Commissioner of Education, Jeffrey Riley, has said that families can make that decision in this academic school year. So absolutely, that is a decision that we know each family, each member of our community needs to make and feel comfortable, right? And everybody's working context is different, and we want you to do what you feel best from a health and safety perspective. And we're gonna meet you with the education, whether that's in the building or whether that's remotely, 100%.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm seeing a couple of questions I just wanted to address about cleaning, and a couple of questions about bathroom, and then I'll open it back up again. So cleaning, we have Airman is our cleaning company. We have a cleaning attendant who is on campus during the day, cleaning and kind of doing, whether it's lunch or meals or hallways or things of that nature. We have a team of about 4 to 5 who clean the building 5 nights a week. That cleaning is typically about 4 p.m. till about 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. Prior to school closure in March, we had also started a hydrostatic cleaning of the building twice a week. There's no better way for me to describe this to you than it's like a large, like water gun looking thing. Like if you have ever seen the movie Ghostbusters, it's like one of those weird kind of superhero kind of looking like guns that they fill with electrostatic solution, and it sprays over a room. We're gonna continue to do that. We are heartened by the fact that folks are saying that it is less likely that the virus right now is sticking to surfaces. That's a big difference than when we left school in March. And that we're really focusing, like I said, on the masks, the distance, and the hand hygiene. I also wanted to say that our HVAC system, so our heating and cooling system, we will be running it on sort of full throttle 100% of the days, even over the weekend. So we will move from a model that is more environmentally friendly to one that prioritizes it working on its full blast 24/7. We will also be opening windows in all classrooms at every extent that we can. So we're gonna be working. Someone's asking about, will students be moving from room to room? So middle school students will not, they will stay put. And 9th grade students, for example, will move within a set of rooms, but only within their pod and in a very limited space. So we will have hand sanitizer and Lysol wipes, and students will have assigned seats in every room to really be able to, like I said, do contact tracing and minimize. We're also moving to as many hands-free moments as we can. So all of our bathrooms, both for students who identify as males and those who identify as females, are set up so that all urinals, all stalls have big stalls around them. So what that lets us do is we can open the doors to our bathrooms and prop them open so that students never have to use or touch the door to get in or out. We have hands-free faucets, and we will be removing the hand dryers from the bathroom while they help us environmentally and help us keep the bathrooms clean. They also spray off droplets, and so we will be removing those and replacing them with paper towels for the duration of the pandemic. That same door propping open strategy will be in every classroom space in the building. So again, we are really working to minimize the number of touch points. So couple questions about start time and end time, and then about middle school students. So currently, first period is 7:45 and we wrap at 3:34, and we end earlier on Mondays at about 2:15. Right now, we're working within that same kind of time frame. Again, not knowing about busing, I don't know if that will need to adjust. So it's my hope in the July, late July and early August meetings, I'll be able to give you more information about timing. With regards to if middle school students are together, how does it work for ELA and math? So we have 2 6th grade ELA teachers and 2 6th grade math teachers. So the way it works is that they each take 2 homerooms, and we build the schedule to allow for that. So they'll be sort of restricted in terms of kids stay in the room, and the teachers will move in and out. In terms of providing masks to students, we are going back and forth about this one. We have purchased 2,000 masks with the Boston Prep Phoenix logo on it. We have a washer and dryer on campus, so we're talking about the idea of every student getting one of our masks and us washing it and kind of doing that on the daily. So we'll know more about that in the weeks ahead. Other questions?
Sharon, just to go
Yes.
back to the mask. So you
Yep.
have 2,000 masks. You're
Mhm.
going to give the kids their masks as they walk in the building, and you guys are going to be responsible to wash it and then
Mhm.
make sure they get their exact mask back.
It wouldn't be the exact mask.
Oh.
No. We couldn't do that, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah.
We'll talk about that, Ms. Duran, if you
Yeah.
wouldn't mind getting that down in the comments. Let's talk about masks and whether or not students are bringing their own masks. I know, for example, I recently cut my hand with a glass, so I had to go to the hospital, and they wouldn't let me wear my mask in the hospital. They gave me a new disposable one. And so I want to just learn a little bit more and talk to some more doctors about what is the best way for us to do that. So we've got transportation, we've got start and end times, we've got dismissal procedures and masks as topics for future conversations.
Hi, Ms. Lizinski.
Hi, Ms. Dietzel, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, it's nice to see you.
Likewise. So my question is about common areas and surfaces, specifically handrails in the stairwells and things like that. The wall, you know, how sometimes when the kids are walking, they'll touch the wall and they have to hold the handrail to get up and down the stairs safely. So what's the plan for that? Whoops, I'm sorry. With kids, you know, moving through the building, even if it's just in the morning and afternoon, what's the plan for that? Or if a child has to get down to the nurse, they've now touched the handrail on the way down.
Yeah. So I think that Alex, our day porter, who I mentioned from Araman, who works with us full time, that's going to be kind of his part of his like routine, right? Just a very regular and constant rotation of wiping handrails, doorknobs, you know, anything where student to student, adult to student contact could occur. We're really going to try to, like I said, minimize that for students. So for example, once they're in the building, right? Obviously arrival to classroom is one thing, but I think if you can imagine like 9th graders, for example, they are only going to transfer rooms on the same floor. So they'll never be moving, and middle school students won't leave their classroom unless kind of exited to go outside and have some fresh air and have a mask break. So we're going to, it's not perfect, really try to limit mobility and increase the duration of cleaning during the day, so we can do that the best we can. We've also purchased hand sanitizer, like dispensers that you put your hand under. You don't actually touch them and get hand sanitizer. So that will be in all classrooms, outside bathrooms, at entry. So we're really going to try to both washing hands increase and create time for that, and also be very liberal with our use of hand sanitizer.
Sure. And so is the plan for every door in the entire building to stay opened all day, every day?
Yeah, the only exception to that is like at the entry points, but if you can imagine coming into school under the main entry, there is buttons because it's handicap accessible, and so we'll keep the entry doors locked as we always have, but all other doors will be propped open.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. I'm curious to hear from families in our final 15 minutes. What do people prefer? Alternating A and B weeks, or a model where we don't have A and B weeks, we treat every week the same? So I've got 3 options here on the screen. I'm curious which one, what you like and why.
Hi, Miss Blazanki. Kristen George here, Jalen's
Hi.
mom, who's a senior.
Yes.
Hi, or about to be a senior. So when I was looking at that schedule, I do like the consistency of it being a regular thing, because if other, for example, after school activities or other programming becomes a factor in our kids' schedule, I think having a schedule where they do the same thing at the same time every week would make that a little bit more feasible for parents and other family members, especially because most parents are going to be working as well. I know that some kids may ultimately end up being responsible for care for younger siblings and so forth on this during the school days and stuff. So some consistency with that as far as from week to week would probably, I think, benefit a lot of families.
Thank you, Ms. George. Be curious to hear from others, and thank you to those of you putting your thoughts in the chat box. Please also feel free to put your thoughts there. We're capturing that as well.
Hi, Miss Lazanki. It's Margaret Dietzel again.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi. So for me, I happen to like the first option, Plan A or Plan 1, where the middle school students go the first week and the high school students go the second week, and then it, that it just keeps rotating. For me, I think it's important that every child gets to be in school, even if it's only for 50% of the time, meaning 1 week remotely and 1 week in school. That's my personal preference. CC doesn't agree with me on that. So I'm curious to know if you'll be inviting students to offer their feedback in the reasons for their thinking, because I think every kid learns differently. So it may be also important to listen to what the kids have to say as well.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. So we are starting today. We've launched this family survey. So we'd encourage all of you to please fill it out. Let us know your preference. Please encourage other families that you're friendly with to do the same. And then we are also doing it with teachers. And then next up is students. So we will do some sort of student town halls like this. And we'll also do a student survey. And we're also similarly for our alumni, and I think I saw some of them sign on here tonight. We're also going to be holding town halls for our alumni parents and families, because they're facing a question about what's happening in higher education. And is it safe to go live on a college campus? And, we support our alums too. So we're trying to talk to all 4 groups: our families, our teachers, our students, and our alumni.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Hi, Ms. Sharon. This is Shanda Phelan's
Hi, Shanda.
mom. Hi.
Yes, nice to see you.
I agree with Mrs. Denzel. I hope I said her name right. I do like the fact that the alternating weeks, because I do think that kids need to, they do need to be in school and have that social aspect of it. So I do like option 1.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Ms. Brown. How about others?
Sharon, hi, it's Jen Walter.
Hi, Ms. Walter.
How are you?
Good. It's nice to see you.
Nice seeing you too. Just a quick question. How many new students were enrolled this upcoming school year?
Okay, I'm going to do some quick math. So sixth grade's about 100. It's about 30 new students in ninth grade, about 5 new students in 10th grade. So that's 135. Okay. And probably about 20 new 7th and 8th graders. So about 155 new students out of a projected student population of 650.
Okay.
So our building is actually designed for 800 kiddos. I think that'd be real tight.
Mm-hmm.
But in any one of the models we're looking at, we are not looking, we're looking to never have 2 grades there. So instead of 650, think a max of about 500.
500. And just one last thing about the models, I had to get nice feedback on this. So she prefers number 3, all weeks the same. I think she's used to the remote learning, but I think she said her whole thing is math. She said it's kind of difficult to do math remotely. So I know some parents were asking if we were going to look to get kids' feedback. So just wanted to share from a senior's perspective.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, Sharon. I just wanted to give, as far as the feedback, as far as for mine, I like option 1, but my only fear with option 1 is the fact that I feel like the kids should be there, but they're only wanting to go to socialize because they're missing their friends and that piece of it. I feel like a lot of the kids are okay. Well, I shouldn't speak. Mine were okay with doing the remote learning. Is it not the best way of learning? I don't think so, because you're missing that in person with the teacher, and that office hours, that was a little more non-personal because you couldn't get the actual help that you needed. But I'm just leery on the option 1 when they're either leaving the school or coming into the school, or as seniors or high schoolers, they're transferring, if they're transferring from class to class, and the cleaning process of that, if they're moving from room to room.
And I think this is, like I said, we've been weighing like how much in-building learning time do you get? We've also talked about like consistency of learning, right? Is it better to come 5 days in a row and build that momentum and then be remote for a week? Or is it better actually to be seen in person by a teacher for some amount of time every week, right? And so this is sort of, there's tensions around teaching and learning and relationship building and families and childcare and the economy here that are really hard to be like, what's the best for everybody, right? How can we get the best of the best for everybody's perspective? So would love to hear from others about which model you like, and please keep putting any of them in the chat box as well too, please.
Sharon, I'm sorry, it's Jen again. I just have one question about the remote versus in school. How will testing work?
I don't have 100% answer for you on that, Ms. Walter.
Okay.
Ms. Duran, let's put that on our list of things. We're investing a lot in online tech tools right now and figuring out what are the right ones that let us get the most student information the quickest. So we need to do some more work on that.
Okay, thank you.
As a school, one thing Ms. Walter started to do in the spring, and I know you'll see more of next school year, is teachers leaning very heavily into the feedback process with students for work to be continuously improved towards goals. So,
okay, thank you.
That said, there will be grades next year. So Commissioner Riley has been clear about that. So you know how it was credit, no credit this spring. There will be grades, there will be credit. And so those are some of the things that we're going to be talking with students about.
I do have one question. Sorry, it's Margaret Dietzel again. Just to piggyback onto what Lynette said, that if students are going to be switching classes during the day, what's the plan? How is the school going to sanitize if you're in math class and then you leave math to go to history class, how are desks going to be sanitized in between classes if there's only, you know, a couple of minutes to change classes?
Yeah, one of the things, Ms. Dietzel, that we're looking into with scheduling, and there's a small huddle group of us working this summer on schedule, is can we set it up so that in a particular room we don't have back-to-back classes? So for example, I'll use Mr. Passano. He's our ninth grade English teacher. Let's say he teaches a period. Can we not have his room used by another cohort of kids in the period that follows, and use that time to Lysol wipe desks and sanitize, and then in the next period bring kids in? So we're trying to look at, with some of the open classroom spaces, could we be a little bit more creative so it's not stacked so much?
Sure. Okay, great. Thank you.
This is Betsy Arelis. I have a 6th and a 7th grader.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Could you be just a little louder?
Okay. My name's Betsy Arelis. I have a 6th and a 7th grader.
Great.
Well, I should say a future 6th grader and a 7th grader. My issue is, actually, I'm a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So I work in a hospital. And seeing everything that is going on, I would think the best option would be remote learning, because I feel like the precautions adults take, kids are really not going to take them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like I said, I work in a clinic, and I know, you know, the precautions that I take myself dealing with patients and cleaning everything. And I can't see kids doing that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
touching everything. And no matter how much we try to keep them apart, I just feel like that's not gonna work as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this has been one of the more kind of challenging parts, is to think about sort of how do we come together in community and do our best, right? And work as students and teachers and families to really lean into, you know, distancing and masks and cleaning hands and staying home if we don't feel well. It is really hard work. And I know in the hospital setting, my mom is a nurse too. One of the things I heard from a doctor last week is that the people like yourself who are doing direct care are some of the healthiest and the least likely to get COVID right now, because you are doing all those things, the sanitizing, the N95 mask, the face shields, you know, so many things, that it's community transmission if we're not really fierce about some of these things, that can be challenging. And so, you know, I think, as you all know, the virus is, you know, in a much better position right now in Massachusetts, but that is not the case in many other states and the country as a whole. And so, as we keep saying every week when I write to you, I'm saying, like, anything can change, everything can change, because just anticipate information will change. So I think, you know, I feel like our team, you know, we didn't have a perfect plan in the spring, but our teachers were teaching, you know, kids were going to 4 to 5 Zoom lessons a day. They had access to office hours. They were going to advisory. I think we feel like we have a good handle on what a better version of remote could look like. And so the question for us, and where we really need your help, is what does hybrid look like? Because we have to develop a plan where some are in and some are out. And so we may never use that plan, but we do have to develop what our families and our students and our teachers think will work best. And so please know that your concerns and the ones that have been raised here tonight about how do we stay safe and how do we work on cleaning, and how do we keep the community healthy are at the top of the list of things we're thinking about. And we will also, one of the things we'll talk about in future town halls is just about what are the protocols if a student or a teacher gets COVID and others have been exposed to COVID. So please know that's coming later in July and early August. We just are not far enough down the path to share something with you that I feel really good about sharing right now.
That sounds good. Can I ask, I'm Claire's mom again.
Yeah.
Can I ask one other question?
Of course.
What if a kid also has a health condition?
Yep.
That makes them.
Yep. So those students are 100%, families can make the decision for those students, regardless of what plan we're in, to do remote learning all the time. And so in the newsletter that I sent today for returning families, there is a link in there where you can indicate, for whatever the reason, if you think that what you would like to do is 100% remote for your child.
Okay.
Fill that out. We won't hold you to it because we know in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, you may feel differently, but we're just trying to gauge how many students that might apply to, whether for themselves or because they live with someone or their family cares for someone for whom they're also immunocompromised.
You said returning students? What if it's a new student?
You can fill out the same form. We just haven't, you kind of are straddling both. We just haven't sent
Right.
the form yet to new students. It's going to go out to new students later in July.
Okay, thank you.
Another question, Kristen George again. So I'm just wondering if anything is in place as far as community building and students' mental health, because I mean, I'm sure we know that this is pretty taxing on kids from that perspective, and that socially, a lot of them feel isolated right now. So if we are in a mode where maybe they're only coming into school on occasion, is there any plan for building community and for building their relationships with teachers and with peers?
Absolutely. So I'll take the two components separately. So one on the mental health side of things. So we have added a social worker to the team. So we have a social worker for the middle school, a social worker for the high school, a school psychologist, a psychology intern, and a partnership with Arbor Counseling. So we will use those 5 to deliver one-to-one counseling, small group counseling. And during the spring pandemic, they offered groups as well. So grief groups, groups for students living with family members impacted by COVID, stress management. So we'll continue to do more of that, and we'll use teachers, advisors, assistant principals, and principals to really connect students up. Our teachers meet every week in grade level meetings, and so that's a great place where teachers share, hey, I heard Sharon was struggling a little bit. Can we connect her with a social worker? And it goes from there. With regards to community building, Ms. Duran, Ms. Harris, Mr. Tab, Ms. Lopez, Ms. Gregory, they are working together on the broader social emotional learning plan, community building, advisory, moments of togetherness, even if we're apart. And so that is very much in the planning. And right now we're actually thinking about how does that time weave into the schedule and how do we build that in? Because we know that both accelerating learning and working on social emotional learning is critical right now. So you should see kind of individual counseling supports, and then you should see a schedule for September that integrates the academic and the community building initiatives together. So please, as we just wrap here, I'm just mindful of time. We will have 2 more town halls as we keep building out different parts of the program. We are going to continue sending you weekly updates every Wednesday. You got that today. There's some surveys in there. And we also just wanted to say that, you know, as I said at the beginning, the past 6 months have really expanded the scope of the adaptive challenge that we're working on. And I think, Ms. George, your point is that, you know, this is challenging for students, it's challenging for families, it's challenging for teachers. And so one of the things that we've been focusing on as a community is just continuing to find and share joy with one another, taking those small moments. And I've been trying to think about and talking with our team about this idea that you can either feel the interconnected crises kind of weighing down on you, or you can see it as the potential opportunity for reinvention, and potentially we're sparking the growth of something new and different and that is beautiful amidst the challenge. And so I like this image of a tree growing in concrete. And so as we weed through all these questions and these challenges and these concerns that are, deep in our bellies, trying to stay in this space as well. And so we're in this together with you. I am so grateful to have so many of you here today sharing your thoughts in the chat. And we will be sure to incorporate this in our feedback. And then the final thing I wanted to say is just with regards to new students and families, yes, we'll be doing some very specific outreach at the end of July into August specific for new families. So please be on the lookout for that. I will stay on for the next few minutes, but this is the end of the program tonight. Thank you all so much for coming and look forward to seeing you in a Zoom room again soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank
You
you.
too. Take care. So nice to see so many of you.
You all stay safe.
You too.
Thank
Wow.
you. Bye.
Let me end it.
Sharon.
Yes.
Hi, it's Jen Walter again. Just a quick question. Have you guys, and I know the answer already, but have you guys been consulting with other charter schools? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So since we closed in March, we were actually meeting, myself and all the leaders of the other charters in Boston 3 times a week.
Okay.
We're now down to once a week we meet for an hour, and myself and Shauna Varone, who's the executive director of Boston Collegiate, we co-chair those meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And so just today I heard from about 8 or 9 schools about their reopening plans, and they're all versions of what we kind of shared. So people are moving in the same direction, and a lot of us really wondering what's going to happen with transportation.
Right.
What's going to happen with the course of the virus. We're also meeting about once every week, every other week with Commissioner Riley. He's speaking just to the charter schools across the state of Massachusetts. And then we've been fortunate to connect up with some other schools in New York who've been sharing some of their materials through webinars, and some schools in Tennessee as well. So some other well-known charter operators.
Okay.
The gym uniform, no, do not prioritize. You can hold on getting a gym uniform. I saw Ms. Ellis here. So I would hold on purchasing that.
Hi, I'm sorry. I did have one more question.
Of course.
So I did hear you mention about the kids not being graded for this year. Is that true? They're not being graded for this year?
So it's complicated. So once we hit closure, everything was credit, no credit. So a student's final grade for this year, and report cards are going out next week unless a student's in summer learning. Report cards, your final grade are a blend of your semester 1 grade, your quarter grade, and then we're giving you some bonus points if you did a whole lot of work while we were in remote learning. So it's, we couldn't, and I think this was very rightfully so, right? We couldn't not give a kid credit. For example, if they had to work full time to support their family and were less able to come to school. So that's really where that statewide policy came from. So students will get grades, all students will get report cards. It's just a little bit less traditional. When we start up school, even if we start 100% remote, we will have grades. That's what Commissioner Riley has said. He's like, I made this decision for 3-4 months, but if this is our new reality for a whole school year, we have to find a way to have a grading policy.
Okay, thank you. And also, are the packets going to be sent home are they going to be mailed to the students for their summer packet, or you have to go online to download the?
There is a link on the website for summer learning there. And I know that books were sent home.
I did receive the book.
You did get the book. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure books were getting mailed home, and then there's other work posted on the school website.
Okay, because I tried to download the work on the website, and somehow I had an issue with it, and I thought I was going to expect something in the mail, but I'll just
No
keep.
problem. Just send me an email,
Okay.
and I will get someone on the team to get you the work.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for answering.
Yep. And I'm seeing another question from Ms. Ellison. Duran, I don't know if you know this. She's saying, did books for summer reading go to new students or only to returning students? You know?
Yeah.
At the moment, only a couple of grades have received their books. We're expecting that all books should be in students' hands by July 15th.
Okay, great. And Ms. Ellis, can you put your email, please, in the chat box? Because I will look into and make sure and see what information has gone out and make sure you haven't missed anything and make sure you get added. So.
Hi, Sharon. This is Shanda again, Phelan's mom.
Yes.
I jumped on a little late, and so I don't know if you covered it. So now with all this remote learning and possibly alternating weeks being in the building, during those times that they're in the building, if they need extra help, the after-school program is not going to be in existence this year, right?
We're not 100% sure. So actually just this week we were working on how would office hours, how would tutoring, how would extra support get worked into the schedule. And I'm not 100% sure yet what after school component will be.
Okay.
Something that we're working on in early August. We have time to do that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you all so much for coming and for your feedback. This was great, and we will do more of these. And like I said, if you know other families, please encourage them to do the survey that we emailed today. Please encourage them to join the next town hall. We want to make sure that we're hearing from as many families as possible as we continue to try to center around a design. So thank you all so much. Be well, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Have a good evening.
Take care all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening. Stay safe.